The storm watch continues here at the Weather Network. We are kept very busy because we've got two different low pressure systems, the nor'easter across the east, and then we've got this, and it's bringing a lot of rainfall to southwestern BC, some snow being detected from our radar as well. We've got warnings in place from Environment Canada for the rain. This has been in place now for days. It's kind of changed a little bit in geography over the last while, but let's go to Delta right now, which is where we find Deb. She's right at the water's edge. Deb, what's it like out there? Thank you very much, Deb. And Deb's signal was just cutting out a little bit there, so we just wanted to make sure that we got a good, clean look at what was going on. But the flood and ferry disruptions too. So rain, it's rain, and it's pretty mild. That mild air has also moved across the prairies and brought up the temperatures. It's bringing some relief from the Arctic air to the prairie provinces, but this low pressure system may become a weather maker as we head into the weekend. The additional rainfall, for now and see what's happening because we've got all this rain that's moving in. And we want to check in with Nate because he's in St. John, New Brunswick. Thank you, Nate. The snowfall in northern parts of the province, yes, indeed, but we have rainfall warnings from Environment Canada. Some of these areas will see well in excess of 50 millimeters of rain, like in Halifax and in southern New Brunswick. Ottawa and Montreal, we've shaded you in white here because this is in excess of 20 centimeters very easily. The snow is also going to be very high in Kingston, and then we start to taper it off. Taper off. All of a sudden, you're going to have to give yourself lots of time to get to where you're going and wake up early. Unsettled conditions continue across the Atlantic provinces. This is for Newfoundland, not so much of an issue, but it does bring some rain. It's more so in terms of high impact. I think snow is a higher impact than rain, and that will be Ontario and Quebec. Back toward the west, again, fair conditions, that mild trend, right? Now we get a bit of a break. Oh, finally, right? We can breathe. No, there's another low pressure system on the way for BC, and there it is on deck. So we're not seeing much of a respite. Some flurries may develop over the northern prairies. And we are definitely going to be seeing this impacting BC for quite a little while longer, actually, because there is another low pressure system that's on deck. So we're not seeing much of a break, essentially, from this pattern that we've been in since Sunday, Monday, started really with that rock slide in North Vancouver on Sunday, and since then we've been in the same pattern. So wind warnings remain in place. We're going to go to Deb, and she's down. Thank you so much, Deb. And that's really one of the issues, when you're a homeowner and you choose to live by the water, always shoring up your waterfront property is a concern. So we've got these rainfall warnings in place. Vancouver Island real-time radar, you can see that some of it's, you see we're trying to detect here a little bit of the snow, but largely this is rain, at times some moderate and heavy rains falling. Low pressure systems will continue. We've got another one that's coming in later in the weekend. And so the winds do break a little bit, but then they're back in. And really the worst of the winds are going to be felt likely for West Vancouver Island. Let's go now to the other side of the country because remember, we have two storms that we're following. Over to Kasha now in Ottawa. Yes, we are going to have to get ready for shoveling, and snow blowers, snow throwers, get them ready and primed because we've got a lot of snow on the way. These blue shaded areas through the St. Lawrence, Montreal, hard hit, Ottawa, even though you're in a special weather statement, not officially in a warning, we're going to get a lot of snow there. Cornwall is that are getting mixing. That's through Plaster Rock and through Bathurst, Miramichi, and then rainfall, heavy rain at times in most of the maritime provinces, and we'll get some rainfall to come into Newfoundland. So this is not going to be a big impact for you, but some rain is on the way. The bigger problem is the backside of the low pressure system. In Toronto, we got to mention you. -1 this afternoon. The snow begins overnight. Tomorrow morning's drive is likely not to be fantastic because we have 10 to 15 centimeters of snow on the way, so a big impact for the GTA on Thursday. We've got issues in southwestern BC because of the rainfall, and the rainfall warnings remain in place from Environment Canada. So getting you set up with what that looks like, we're going to take it over to Deb actually right now and just check in with her. That always seems to happen when you got a hurricane and big huge waves. There's always somebody surfing those waves. Windsurfers kind of live for these conditions actually. So rainfall warnings are in place from Environment Canada. Also want to show you the wind, and at least through the overnight tonight before the next round of weather comes in, and we'll have some decent winds here through Victoria, we've been largely rain shadowed and you haven't seen as much rain as other areas. Well, we'll see some winds increasing in strength around you as well, and rainfall continued. Downsloping wind has helped to bring up our temperatures. Yesterday, Abbotsford was the hot spot in the nation, but Edmonton, Red Deer, Pincher Creek, and Calgary all reached 9 and some degrees yesterday. The warmth is being spread now across into Saskatchewan and Manitoba. You're going to be sharing into that warmth as well as the temperatures rise to above the freezing mark heading into tomorrow. Now our other big story, Eastern Canada. Wow, we're getting a lot of snowfall. Let's check in with Kasia right now in our nation's capital. All right, thanks so much, Kasia. Ottawa, Montreal, through Brockville, Cornwall, and even Kingston will be hard hit from the snow. The snow totals will be higher there than in Toronto, but 10 to 15 centimeters of snow in Toronto, the St. Lawrence. Storm warnings over northern New Brunswick and Gaspé, and wind warnings too. Newfoundland, you're going to get some rain from this nor'easter. Strong, again, northeasterly winds. Wind warnings remain in place. Thank you so much for finding time to join us here at the Weather Network. I'm Sheryl Plouffe. We want to get you set up with what is happening across the country. We've got the nor'easter across the east of the country. For the west, though, it's just been a succession of low pressure systems, and they have, in many cases, brought about wind warnings and rain warnings. We do have, at times here, some reflectivity, these yellows showing us some heavier bands of rain. Although, I'm looking at Delta and down toward Tsawwassen. Well, the winds are still strong, no question. They're from the southeast. Thank you so much for that, Deb. I mean, everyone, a lot of people, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people aspire to have, a waterfront property and be able to look out at the water every day, but it does come with its own hazards, no question. So we do have some rainfall totals here to share with you, in addition to what we've seen north of Vancouver and on Vancouver Island around Tofino. The avalanche danger rating is a little bit here and there with regard to considerable and high ratings all over the place in the Rockies and for the Coast Mountain rain we're expecting here. So rainfall warnings are still posted for Nova Scotia, PEI, and southern central New Brunswick. To the north, it is all snowfall, and our radar can show us that we're seeing the decent bands here of snow. This was a concern that we were talking about internally here yesterday with our meteorologists, was about the freezing rain potential that we may see through, again, northern New Brunswick, so right about in here and through New Hampshire, Vermont, and the higher elevations, and also the eastern townships of Quebec. But on the backside of the low, that's where it's going to be a huge impact with the storm because it's all snowfall. And you know what happens when you put 20 plus centimeters of snow in a metropolitan area like Montreal and Ottawa and Toronto. We've had so much rain in BC, and Environment Canada still has rainfall warnings in place for the mainland, for the island, and we're looking at, in some cases, well, West Vancouver Island comes to mind, around Tofino, where they've seen over 350 millimeters of rain since the beginning of this week. Even by West Coast standards, that's a lot of rain. When we look at our real-time radar, we can see that there is some indication of some bands of heavier rain out over the strait, and then some snowfall being detected here. But this is a very high elevation. We're expecting the snow levels to remain above 2,000 meters. So alpine snow is expected the next while with this, because this is a Pacific flow and it's bringing a lot of mild air into the BC coastal regions. It's also bringing with it some stronger winds. The low pressure systems here are giving us a little bit of a break at times. Then the next one comes in. Victoria, likely some stronger gusts heading into Friday afternoon. A new low pressure system develops in the south of the province. That could be a weather maker for the prairies in the form of some flurries by the weekend. Rainfall totals, they've been high in Tofino, adding on top of that another 100 millimeters of rain. Wow. And then north of Vancouver through the Fraser Valley. Yeah, we've got through Howe Sound, where the warnings, northern Saskatchewan and Manitoba, but across the south, we have warming temperatures. In fact, we have seen some nice warmth build in as of late, but that's the story across the prairies. There's not a lot of weather. It's about the temperatures that are rising. Northern Ontario still cold in Timmins at -11. Across southern Ontario, temperatures are a little bit more, more moderate. Temperatures sitting around freezing, but that is going to result in snowfall with the low pressure system, the nor'easter on the backside of it. It's all snowfall, so we're cold enough to see some snow. The maritime provinces is bringing rainfall for Nova Scotia and also around St. John getting rainfall, and that's where we find Nate Coleman. Good point, Nate. Thank you so much for that. Snowfall in northern portions of the province and Gaspé through the St. Lawrence. The winds have been very strong here, funneling through the St. Lawrence Valley into Quebec City and down into Montreal and Ottawa. There's some enhancement from Georgian Bay, so areas around Barrie and through Owen Sound, 15 to 25 centimeters. But the system itself, because we're going to be on the back side of this nor'easter, it's cold enough to see snow. We know what a couple of centimeters can do for commuting in Toronto, so 10 to 15 centimeters. This is a very significant storm system. Ottawa, Montreal, Brockville, Cornwall, and even up toward Peterborough and Bancroft of rain in excess of 60 plus millimeters of rain. Stormwatch coverage continues. We have our teams mobilized across the country. Why? Because we have two different low pressure systems that are giving us a high impact. The BC side of things, it's a high impact from rain and wind. We look at our radar and we can see some yellow popping up here indicating some bands and some bursts of some heavier rain at times. Also a little bit of snowfall being detected in the blues up toward Whistler and through the Coast Mountain Range. Rainfall warnings are in place from Environment Canada, and we're going to go right now to Deb, and she's right here, Boundary Bay. Let's hope that they're somewhat experienced as they head out there. I think in most cases anyone who would set out in those types of conditions probably have some degree of experience, but it's something not to try at home, if you know what I mean. Let's take a look at our warnings. Rainfall warnings from Environment Canada, and winds sustained, very strong winds here for the Olympic Peninsula, back up into Tofino, some strong winds, and then it eases and then it comes back in with our next low pressure system coming through. Let's take a look at the rainfall. In addition to what we've already seen, Tofino has seen over 300 millimeters, another 90 plus expected, just slightly above the freezing mark. Now, when we look toward Manitoba, it's not until really today and tomorrow that we're going to start to really share in some of the warmth that the other prairie provinces have been enjoying to this point. Let's go to Northern Ontario, cold in Timmins, cold in Geraldton, and Thunderside. Thank you very much, Kasha. Big time snow, Gaspé Peninsula, northern New Brunswick, 15 centimeters of snow. Don't forget to follow us on social media as we follow the storm track and here on TV. A powerful low pressure system, a big storm in BC, bringing us still very impressive radar returns when we look at the rain that's continuing through the Strait of Georgia. Nanaimo getting some heavy rain. Victoria, some rainfall for you as well. But largely when we look at the totals that we've had since Monday, you haven't seen as much because typically you get rain shadowed to a degree in Victoria, but elsewhere, we're still getting some rain now for sure. And up the Malahat, it's probably a pretty slippery drive on Vancouver Island, on the Island Highway, up toward Courtenay and Comox, where there's an emergency in place. We have rainfall warnings in place. Mainland attention to areas around Campbell River here in this case. So Carla sent in this picture here, and also another hamlet, which is Black Creek, which is just north of Courtenay, and we can see there's some houses flooded. Wind warnings are in place through the through Haida Gwaii, through the Hecate Strait, Georgia Strait, Juan de Fuca, strong winds expected, and we will get some breaks in this. It's because we have a pattern of low pressure systems. When they come in, obviously it's impactful, and then they break before the next one comes in, but it's a series of them. We've seen that pattern now, and we'll continue to see that pattern even into the end of the weekend. Tofino, 300 millimeters plus of rain we've seen in this area. And then north of Vancouver, started off on Sunday with a rock slide. Still some concerns with regard to rock slides, Highway 1 and Highway 3 in the interior. Let's go over now. When we look at our radar, we can see that snowfall in northern New Brunswick through the Gaspé, Bathurst, Miramichi, and through the Acadian Peninsula, snowfall, and then rainfall. At times, moderate rain through the south. But in St. John, New Brunswick is where we find Nate Coleman. Thanks, Nate. The Environment Canada rainfall warnings are still posted for St. John and most of central and southern New Brunswick. Nova Scotia warm enough for the rain throughout this whole event, and then PEI is included as well. Prince County PEI right here is expected to see slightly higher totals than further to the east. Halifax, 50 plus millimeters of rain. You don't have a choice in Ottawa and Montreal. 15 to 30 centimeters, that's a foot of snow expected in those areas. Down toward Kingston, so travel on the highways is not going to be great. And then the commute for tomorrow in Toronto will be problematic with 10 to 15 centimeters of snow expected, and that gets going overnight while you're sleeping. The snow will be falling. You're going to wake up and it's going to be a mess. Unsettled conditions remain in this trough across the east of the country. By contrast, what goes down has to go up, and it goes up over the prairies. And that's why we have fair weather and warm temperatures. This in actually Nanaimo, one of the most beautiful places you could visit, really a hub on Vancouver Island. And we are going to see still some strong winds, and they've been very strong through the Strait of Georgia, through the southeast, through the Gulf Islands. And then we've got, of course, lots of widespread wind warnings from Environment Canada, still issues that have popped up around Courtenay and Comox, and we have rainfall warnings that remain in place. When we look at our radar, we can see that there is some indication of some bands of heavier, more moderate rain within the scope of the green. So when we start getting into the yellows, that's all snow, rather some rain, and then the snow being detected from Park, as you can see here from that video. It's a pretty dramatic scene, and the south coast is under. There's nothing out of the ordinary with that, but it's just been so much so fast, and the winds have been particularly strong at times too. We'll get a bit of a break heading into later today and tonight, and then they'll come back in with our next low pressure system. The rainfall totals already in excess of 300 plus millimeters around Tofino. We're going to add another possibly 100 more on top of that. Let's go to our nation's capital, because that's where we're going to be seeing big impact from snow, and join up with Kasha.
Your weather story.
Thank you so much, Kasha. We have lots of warnings still in place. Freezing rain through the eastern townships. Then you've got through the St. Lawrence, Montreal, Cornwall, Brockville. And then the snowfall has already started in Montreal and Ottawa. Today is the day that we're going to see the big snow accumulating. And in Toronto, that's likely not to happen until overnight tonight before we really start to feel the snow impact. So those of you who work shift work, and today's highlights again, snow in the east, but the GTA flurries begin later today. Just want to mention that we will have extensive coverage with regard to how this impacts the commute in the GTA throughout the hour. So we'll have lots more detailed analysis of what's going on here. But yeah, for the morning, we'll storm when we know that a couple of centimeters can throw everything off kilter, right? Thursday, unsettled across the east, fair and mild across the prairies.